Hey everyone, welcome back to video 4 of the Student Portfolio series. Thanks for joining us. In this section, we're going to wrap up the styling of the navigation for all 4 pages. So at the top we have a logo, and then we have on the right-hand side, navigation to all the pages with a hover effect. So that's where we left off. We're about halfway through that. Let's head on over to our Cloud9 IDE, and on the screen right now is the index.html page, and here is the structure. So we set navbar, the class, to flex so that all of the children, logo, toggle button, and navbar links, were displayed flex and able to be shown in a horizontal manner. However, we also had to display the links, navbar links class as flex. Otherwise, inside of that, the A tag or the list items were not direct children of the main container navbar, they're direct children of the UL. So we set the UL to flex, and that also allowed us to view the pages in a horizontal and not vertical manner. We were able to take out text decoration, the bullets, the underlining, change the text, and so on. And this is basically the effect. So notice now across the screen, on a bigger screen, everything is working out as planned. But as we move to a more mobile look, we haven't quite designed the mobile effect yet. And the other piece that's missing is that Hamburger Toggle drop-down menu. So if we take a look at the finished product and we go to a smaller screen, this is the toggle we're talking about. The logo should stay, but the navigation link should disappear until we click on that hamburger menu, so to speak, the 3 bars. So that's what it's going to be the focus of in this section, as well as the getting it ready or getting everything ready for the mobile effects. So let's see where we last left off in the nav CSS. So remember, we have 2 files here. That is not technically I'm doing that for simplicity because this is kind of a beginner approach to a static multi-page project. Usually if you're doing components with CSS, you will be using something called Sass, but it's a little advanced for this. So right now we're just doing 2 different files to keep things separate. Okay, so we employ the hover, and now we need to focus on our toggle. So let's see. The toggle button, just to head back here, is right in the middle, and we're looking at this HTML structure from index. Now, if you recall, we set up the anchor tag with a default link. So we're not necessarily using this as a link. I don't want to say tricking this, but we're using the link feel because when you hover over an anchor tag, a link, your cursor goes from an arrow to a hand. It gives you the link effect. There is nothing inside as far as context, but inside of the A tag, the anchor tag that closes on line 22, we have 3 spans that also create smaller rectangles. We've assigned a class bar to them. And again, there's no content in between there visible on the screen. So we're going to style that rectangle so that it looks like 3 bars. Okay, so we want to target toggle button first. That's the class of our anchor. And there's a little bit that we're going to type in here. And this is going to go right underneath the nav links hover. So we want to target toggle button class. So remember, all class references from index.html have to start with a dot, toggle hyphen button. Make sure one of the big issues that come up is just spelling. Capitalization matters here. So I usually copy what's in the class file here and bring it over in front of a dot, and then we're all set. So position absolute moves that in a fixed location unrelated to anything else on the page. And we're asking to set it so that it's at the top 1.5 rems from the top and 1.5 rems from the right. So that allows us to ignore relative positioning and position this absolute. Display is none right now. If we put this, if we turn display on, you would see the bars here, but we're keeping it none. Flex direction, we want column, we want the bars on top of each other. Justify content, space between, and just back on flex direction again. In the past, we've set this to row, and that's the default, but we're forcing column. We want the bars on top of each other. And then the width of one bar will be 30 pixels, so relatively small, and the height will be 20. Okay. So that takes care of the container that is wrapped around the bars. Now we want to address the styling of the bars themselves. So right underneath, we want to target the toggle button class and the class.bar inside of that toggle button class. So that's what that first line is saying. And we want the bars to have a height of 3 pixels and a width of 100%. So the actual container for the whole hamburger menu, all three combined, is 30 by 20. And we will have the height be 3 pixels for one strip or one bar, and it'll take up the whole box itself. Background color, we're going to change it to white, and we're going to give a little bit of a curvature for the corners of the rectangle, just a slight, so that's 10 pixels there. Let's hit Control S, and I want to change one thing up in toggle button. Just take a look at this now. Up in toggle button, we said display was none at the moment. Let's change it to flex, and let's see if we have anything. And there it is in the corner here. And notice when we hover over it, we get the hand, and that's the effect we want with that anchor tag. It's not going to link to anything. We're going to use JavaScript to employ a pull-down menu. And as you could probably imagine from the previous project, we're going to keep this as display none right now, and when we use a media query, when the screen gets smaller, that's when we will make the shift from display none to display flex. So back we go to there, and let's continue on with our with the media query now. So first thing with the media query, and I'm just going to use an extra space here. Okay, so as I said before, when we go to a max width of 800, so anything 800 or less, we're going to display flex, and that hamburger menu will come up. And then we want navbar links. So what this is going to do now is turn off the display of the navbar link. So what is that? Let's go back up to our HTML here. I'm just going to hit save. And navbar links is this class here. So when we're triggering the smaller screen, we want the menu items to disappear, and in its place, we want that hamburger menu. So that's why we are using that strategy. So display none on the navbar links. And the entire, let's see. The entire navbar, we now want to change this to flex direction column. So let's check out to see what this actually does. The entire navbar is this structure. It's all three items. So when we're big screen, we have it going horizontally. Flex direction row, the default when we display flex. We want this now to go flex direction column, because when we actually shrink the page down and we select the hamburger menu, we want the drop-down menu to now be vertical. So that's the strategy behind this section right here. Navbar links, or excuse me, navbar, flex direction column, and align items flex start. Then the unordered item lists we also want to be column. So we're changing up, we're reversing the rows so everything is stacking nice on top of itself here. So finally, we have two more pieces. And navbar links, we want the LI, the list items, we now want that to text align center. We want it to be center of the screen, dropping down. And we want this last piece here, navbar links dot active. This will only display navbar links as flex when JavaScript is employed here. So that's the trick behind this. So if we take a look at the JavaScript code, we're not going to delve too deep into it, but notice here in the line of code on line 5, when the class list toggle becomes active, now display flex. So that will give us the effect that we see in the final product. Again, when we shrink down to a smaller screen, mobile-like, we'll have our hamburger menu. Notice now the navbar links is no longer visible. I select the anchor tag, kind of the dummy anchor tag, and that employs the display flex to drop down. Everything centers, and we are now active with the navbar link. So everything will work the way we want it to. Let's just make sure we have all of that. So just a quick review one more time here. So we did just now in today's video, we set up the toggle button to be position absolute. So in other words, not relative to anything else. We set it up in the corner on the right-hand side. We turn display off. We will turn it on when with a media query, and we change flex direction to column and set that toggle button that contains all 3 bars to be a 30 by 20 pixels, small in the upper right-hand corner and not visible until we get to a smaller screen. So that's the whole situation there. Then each bar had its own styling. Remember, inside of the spans, there's no text, there's no content. We're just controlling the background color. So we're going to see the white, and that white box is going to be just 3 pixels in height, and it's going to be the width of the entire toggle button, which will be 30 pixels. So it'll be 3 by 30, and we'll have 2 of them, or 3 of them. Then finally, when we go to media query, max width of 800, we then flip the switch to display flex. Navbar links now gets turned off, so these links going across are now shut off. In place of it, the toggle button's turned on. Navbar is now turned to flex column, so it's vertical. We center, text align the list item as center. We flex direction or column the unordered list, and then we add an active tag. And once the active tag is activated, everything is displayed flex and turned back on. So one final thought on that. Let's take a look. Everything is on here and the toggle is off, but when we go to that screen size, the links are now display off. The hamburger menu's on. We click that, and then here's your display flex active. So that wraps it up for our navigation. There's quite a bit there, but this will be on every single page. So we will repeat that on projects, on blog, and on About Me. Thanks for coming along, everybody. We will see you in the next video.